Something seriously strange just happened in the Tesla community. So unusual, in fact, that someone says this account has been hacked, and I love it. Earlier, James gave up on FSD, but now he says FSD is the real deal, and the implications are pretty big. And what you're looking at here is likely going to be called a watershed moment. You can see that version 12.5 is about 3.5 times better than 12.3 in terms of full self-driving disengagements. This is no longer one or two accounts saying, oh, 12.5 full self-driving version is the best version ever. No. This is data from 118 entries, 1,400 miles, with one critical disengagement per every 448 miles in the city versus 129 miles in the city before. I personally suggest to strongly ignore highway miles because it's not end-to-end yet, and we only want end-to-end data. Chuck Cook is one of the most trusted full self-driving testers, and he says first drives in the new Model Y yesterday buttery smooth. Even the mistakes are smooth. The few tiny ones it made. It's the biggest jump between versions I have seen so far. We are looking at history being made right here today. Even Gary Blatt, who hasn't been excited about FSD before really, is now saying we've noticed a surge in posts on X that Tesla FSD is nearing the point of no critical disengagements. On the previous version, 66% of the drives had no disengagements, and currently we are at 84.8%. Note that these are not critical disengagements. Historically, Piper Sandler has made some great Tesla stock calls, and they told investors yesterday to buy Tesla stock because they believe Tesla may outsolve the self-driving puzzle. So looking at critical disengagements, we are at 96%, and we are soon going to start a march of nines where efficacy is going to improve from, let's say, 99% to 99.9%, and then 99.999%, and then 99.99999% until eventually robotaxis are deployed. But Gary thinks we only need to get to 99.99%. This is based on Waymo's data, and they already have regulatory approval and they are operating robotaxis. So 99.99% is what we are looking for. I always made it clear that to me, it's obvious that Tesla is going to solve full self-driving and make it safer than human driving, but why didn't James, for example, have that same opinion, and what changed his mind exactly with this release? He has always been conservative, but the V12.3's improvement from V11 prompted him to take notice. Massive improvement on the new code, but the question was then, can they do it again? Fast forward a few months and we have another big jump. This strongly suggests the thesis of more compute equals more performance is actually working. And we already know that compute power is only going up. So when the data changes, it's important to change your thinking. So a big shout out goes to James. That's why he's now leaning towards FSD is the real deal, with implications being massive. Even if it doesn't reach robotaxi level performance, there could still be a lot of value in FSD. I think it needs to be corrected to there will be a lot of value in FSD. Everyone's teasing James for Zada saying, baby, are you okay? I also have a theory. Remember this cat from AI Driver? The cat didn't move. It must have been stunned by this new level of performance from FSD. This could have been James. And he's coming out now with a pretty strong conclusion. Many people are extremely stubborn, and that's why I say this is a weird thing for someone to come out like this and say that it is actually a big deal, while before being so skeptical about this. So for us long-term Tesla stock investors, this is a huge deal, because when people like James start to change their minds, this is when Tesla stock is being set up for a big rally potentially. But why is Tesla stock down as I'm recording this video? Well, it's because of the recall. 1.8 million vehicles have an issue with their hoods. But the real big reason why Tesla stock did what it did earlier today is because the whole market was down. And looking at NASDAQ 100 technology sector, yeah, you look at Tesla's chart, they mirror each other. But back to the recall. The hood could literally fully open and obstruct the driver's view, which is of course terrible, but this is a software issue, and a software issue only needs a software fix. So it's actually all good. Tesla has already fixed it. So as far as I'm concerned, this changes absolutely nothing. Looking at the stock today, you wouldn't think that we have good news for Tesla, but actually we do have quite a bit. Tesla is overall having a good Q3 so far. In China, China. And usually Sawyer does not say that the number from China is really good or really bad. Sometimes he does, but usually he doesn't. This time though, he explained that it's a good number. The quarter so far is almost 50% higher compared to the previous quarter. Here's our current week. As you can see, it's higher than almost all of the previous weeks except for one. But if you look at this quarter that had a higher week, you will realize that it started really badly. So therefore, I would tend to ignore this higher blue number. It's not all that difficult to have higher demand after, you weren't doing so good for a little while. But to have 1, 2, 3, 4 good weeks in a row, that's not exactly easy. And look at this. Clearly, we are having a wonderful time in China. We're actually doing so well that Tesla has already achieved its best first month of a quarter ever. If you're liking what you're seeing here, you have to click the like button. Now, the question is how much of this is due to 0% financing or forward pull demand due to lower exports to Europe? And in the next few days, we will see the wholesale numbers, which will give us much better insight. But so far, this is really good. I'm not seeing anyone complain about this number and say that, this is not a good number because a different number is going to be a lot worse. And on this news, Tesla stock earlier was actually up. So we know that the market is actually liking this too. And look, if James sees something he doesn't like, he will say it, but I'm not seeing him say anything bad about Tesla's numbers in China. I am seeing him though say this: complaints high equals Tesla has terrible quality. Complaints low equals fraud. This is Tesla bear logic that he is quoting here. I actually consider this good news. He's basically saying that people that own Teslas have fewer complaints about their new vehicles compared to the previous year. So obviously Tesla is doing better with quality control. And this sort of makes sense because Tesla's deliveries are not growing as fast as before, so Tesla can pay more attention to making better cars instead of just making more cars. This will help Tesla improve its reputation, which, earlier suffered a little bit in terms of the little details not being completely refined. If you buy a Tesla vehicle, I strongly suggest to make sure that you yourself inspect the vehicle, like every single thing, inspect it, make sure it's all good because you can still refuse the delivery. Given the Model Y's historic NHTSA complaints run rate, the 2024 Model Y should have racked up at least 300 owner complaints in NHTSA at this point in the year, but it only racked up 20. Tesla is doing a really good job. In the meantime, though, Cybertruck already had 9. But the production just started, relatively speaking. So it makes sense. Now, getting back to China's numbers, there is a good chance that year over year, this quarter, we are going to surpass the previous year in China. Investors are really excited about this. Here's some more good news. Daiwa Capital has increased its Tesla stock price target to $225 from $180, so it's still too low, but they increased it. You are about to see something quite incredible, and Elon reposted this to his main timeline, which is why it got 10 million views. This is Tesla's 12.5. I sped it up to 2x. It exits this completely unmarked parking lot. It eventually makes it to a regular road without any issues. It's smooth, it's nice, it's exactly what you would do. Maybe it actually drives better than some people. But the point is, it works, and it's not an easy thing for software to do. And Elon added that, of course, it will improve significantly from here. Significantly, that's the keyword. Omar made an announcement and a recommendation. Guys, Tesla is not going to solve autonomy. Musk has been saying that for years. Don't buy any Tesla stock until I'm finished adding under $300. And with FSD getting so much better, there is a good chance that the Tesla team is actually going to do a pretty, maybe somewhat sophisticated demo drive with the Cybercab during the events. Maybe not, but there's a good chance it will happen. But what is up with Wall Street Journal? Look at this headline: the hidden autopilot data that reveals why Teslas crash. It's on attack mode again. It's an accusatory headline and I don't like it. I actually found one seemingly valid complaint about 12.5.1. While it is amazing and zero disengagement so far, auto speed still sucks. It's unusable in rural North Carolina. Check this out. This is someone trying FSD for the first time. Look, clearly she is amazed at what's happening. And Elon replied with, the car drove me around Austin to random GPS pin drops, no interventions. Now, we know that where Elon drives, he is going to have a better experience than most of us, just because the Tesla team actively works on making these routes a little bit better, because there are going to be unique problems during these routes, and these specific issues will be addressed, which will make everyone's FSD better, by the way, but it could be a little bit specific to Austin. But with random GPS pin drops, yeah, you can't really make it fully bulletproof unless it's actually good, and no interventions for Elon Musk. I would like to know how long his drives were, though. This is seriously disappointing. Tesla's driver assistance system is truly amazing, but not even close to solving autonomy. William Stein of True Securities writes after a test drive, this was just written, but he drove on 12.3.6. Imagine being a really important analyst and you manage a lot of money, or you can influence a lot of money, and you review a piece of software that's months old in the field where a few months can be sort of like years or decades, relatively speaking, compared to other fields. Why? Why would you do that? This is who our competition is, guys. And we're going to beat Wall Street again, of course. I am sure that eventually we will have another major rally.
William Stein.
Oh, I think I mispronounced his name, but I'm going to stick with William Stein. I think it's more fitting. Analysts, please don't stain your reputation by reviewing old pieces of software. But I'm not sure if you should expect more from analysts that usually increase their price targets after things have happened, not before things happen, which is really their job. They should anticipate these things happening. Here's another FSD review. There are a few issues, it seems. Incorrect traffic circle signaling, turned on left blinker instead of right, but I think Tesla just needs more data from traffic circles. Probably Tesla doesn't have much data from traffic circles right now. Hard stop at light that turned yellow. That does seem to be a somewhat common or not rare complaint. Here's another review. V12.5 is unreal. 5 days without interventions. Hard stops at the yellow light and in other situations in general is my biggest gripe with FSD. This is an incredibly accurate description of what we're going through right now. Imagine you're back in 2017 and you know Tesla has a game-changing product, the Model 3, but that most people actually don't believe it's real, and people refuse to believe that it's actually just started production. It sort of happened with Tesla before a few times. That's what this moment is like right now with Tesla and FSD. With end-to-end, they have a breakthrough that people haven't yet fully absorbed, but you can go and try the car yourself. If you really want to, you can. Most have only seen one end-to-end model, FSD 12.3. They haven't yet been able to grasp the rate of improvement, the move to hands-free. And on top of all of this, in 72 days, Tesla will unveil a driverless vehicle with no manual controls. They will also show off new, more affordable models that will incorporate many elements of the next-generation platform the Robotaxi Cybercab is built on. And almost everyone, including some Tesla bulls, they can't bring themselves to believe what is actually happening. Here's some really good news. According to local news in China, the construction rate of Tesla's China's mega factory is going well, and 30% of the factory has already been completed, or the project. So at this point, it doesn't seem like we are going to have delays for that factory. It's just going to be built. There's actually an update on the Giga Mexico factory as well. I thought it was fully on pause. Some work has actually started on the concrete pieces of the ram's retaining walls. So infrastructure work for Giga Mexico is definitely not on hold. It is moving even faster. I mean, relatively speaking, because I thought it wasn't moving at all, but we clearly see some people doing something here. And yesterday FSD was supposed to go wide, and if that happened, we should start seeing a lot more FSD reviews very soon. This is good for Tesla. Elon reposted this to his main timeline. It already got a lot of views. This is a new Model S Plaid quarter-mile time. This is good for Tesla's publicity. We know that a lot of people were laid off on Tesla's supercharger team, but looking at this chart of new superchargers installed, you wouldn't know that anything changed at all. In the long term, more superchargers are really important. I was recently in Northern California and I was trying to look for a hotel with a charger, and that was actually really incredibly difficult. When we finally found one after looking for about an hour, the hotel was fully booked. And when we eventually found a hotel with a charger. The charger did not have a Tesla adapter, so we couldn't actually use it. Next time, maybe I'll bring a charging adapter. I didn't count how many supercharger stops I made, maybe roughly around 8-ish or 10-ish. I personally did not have any charging problems. However, there was this one location where after I arrived, all these stalls got taken and another Tesla pulled up and it didn't have any stalls left for it. But luckily, 1 minute later, one of them freed up and that person could charge. And with one specific stop, I had to make a roughly 15-minute detour just to charge. I was not a big fan of that, but okay. So more chargers would definitely be helpful. Overall, it was a pretty good experience. I wish charging speeds were a little bit higher, not by a lot, but by a little bit, or that the battery would be a little bit bigger. I have a Model 3 long range. I'm not asking for a big improvement, maybe 30% improvement for the battery range and a 30% improvement for charging speed, and then I think the experience would be absolutely flawless. I don't think you would really realistically need more than that for long road trips. But already, because of autopilot, if you gave me a choice between a gas-powered car or a Tesla to go on a long road trip, I'm choosing a Tesla. One reason is, with superchargers, you sort of don't need to think about, oh, where do I stop for a bathroom break, where I stop for food. It's just pre-planned for you already. You don't need to think about it. And while not every single stop is in the most amazing location, some of them are in pretty nice locations. Most of them actually are in good locations. Out of all these stops we made, I think I was only bored once at a supercharger, but that was only a 20-minute stop. If you need some perspective, wow. This chart is quite amazing. Indeed, I agree with Elon Musk. The trend is good. But when you back out a bunch of real things that result in real revenue, it ain't so beachy. The crazies started saying we can't count storage revenue yet? Or if you only count Q1 sales on odd Tuesdays in Albania, Tesla sales are zero. Tesla is due, say Tesla bears. I thought they were mostly talking about regulatory credits, but I guess not. In reality, you wouldn't back out things that result in real revenue and that are likely to continue for many years, but reality isn't relevant to the haters. Oh wow, and did you know you can now pick up used Model Y long ranges for under $25,000. I have said before that we will see a lot more Tesla vehicles used by the police, and the city of South Pasadena, California unveiled the nation's first ever all-electric police fleet featuring 20 Teslas. The 20 Teslas are expected to save about $4,000 a year per vehicle on energy costs, or $80,000 per year. The thing is, police vehicles typically idle more than other vehicles as officers make traffic stops or respond to emergency calls. The gasoline engines must continue to run just to power the car's emergency lights, radios, and other equipment used in police cars. In contrast, EVs are emission-free while driving, and the engine doesn't need to keep running always. We just use the battery. The police force also said the range on the Model Y is almost identical to the cars that were previously in service, gasoline cars. Elon saw this news and he loves it. And in a few years, it will be, I think, not uncommon to see police Cybertrucks. That's just the perfect police vehicle. I thought this was funny, so I have to share this with you guys. Maduro calls Elon Musk his arch enemy. He's the leader of Venezuela, and says Elon wants to come to Venezuela with an army and his space rockets and invade it. So he was asked to confirm or deny it. Elon Musk replied with, does he have space lasers? Because I do. I'm not going to get into this, but it seems like something big is happening in Venezuela. Police officers are removing their uniforms. Secretary of Transportation in the US, Pete Buttigieg, on if the US should embrace cheap EVs from China, said no, because it's not fair competition there, China. Doing this because they are trying to dominate the EV market. We've got to make sure that as the industry shifts to EVs, it's an American-made EV revolution. You know, I would seriously believe them if they invited Tesla, you know, the company that sells very roughly 50% of all of the EVs sold in the US. I would believe them if they invited Tesla to their EV summit. Also, union shops, they have a hard time innovating fast enough. But really, I believe personally that it boils down to our legacy OEMs failing to act a decade ago when they needed to. Instead of pointing the finger at China, our government and legacy OEMs need to blame themselves. Oh, and maybe stop subsidizing hybrids and plug-in hybrids. Despite the horrible headlines, Gene Munster thought that Wall Street Journal's reporting was actually impressive. It detailed their findings from over 200 Tesla crashes that happened while the driver was using autopilot. And these are Gene's 4 takeaways. He believes eventually autopilot will be discontinued once FSD is ready. The article appropriately points out that some autopilot users put too much faith in the feature. The reason this happens is because 90% of the time it works flawlessly. Essentially, its flaw is that it is really good but not perfect. Gives you a fake sense of security sometimes to some people. FSD, when it's ready for mainstream, will have succeeded in the march of nines, which means it will be significantly more reliable than a human. At that point, autopilot becomes an irrelevant, outdated feature. But I think Tesla can easily keep autopilot, just basically have it safer than human driving, and problem solved. Gene believes still that Tesla will have to add more sensors to the autonomy stack. His belief is when your life is on the line, redundancy is worth the additional cost. Yeah, for example, have more cameras. You have 2 eyes, not just one. So if a bug flies into one of your eyes, you can still see with the other eye. And Teslas have many cameras. It has multiple cameras facing forward, so you have multiple redundancies already. The other 2 points are boring, and Omar made fun of Gene. He used the clown emoji saying they're not going to add more sensors. They could maybe change the camera placement a little bit, add more cameras, eliminate every single blind zone. And Tesla is going to add some sort of function for the car to hear what's going around it. So for example, if it hears a siren, maybe that's a sign that an emergency vehicle is nearby and it needs to be ready to quickly stop, make space for the emergency vehicle. Yeah, that's going to happen. Also, Elon before said that adding an HD radar, that's a possibility, but at that time, that technology basically didn't even really quite exist. And a year ago, Elon said the Tesla design radar is a high-resolution radar that has some potential to be useful, but the jury is still very much out on whether that is in fact the case. So Wall Street Journal released this video on YouTube. You can only see the first 4 minutes, and then there's a video behind a paywall 11 minutes, and I was going to watch it until I saw Omar comment on this video. His conclusion is the video is out of date. Now, of course, there are definitely instances where autopilot failed to save a driver's life, yes, but autopilot is a driver assistance system that cannot prevent every crash. And statistically, if you looked at Tesla's data, you know that you are safer when you are driving on autopilot than without it. You're not going to be invincible in a Tesla, you're just going to be better off. Also, they show examples from years ago, almost all from the old autopilot stack, despite the fact that it has been completely re-engineered with FSD. They talk about things like labeling and object detection that are years out of date. They haven't heard of new advances like the occupancy network that can generate a 3D map of your surroundings without detecting any specific objects. And Omar uses some colorful language here. At one point, that moron, Tesla fired, was talking about labeling as if all of his experiences weren't years out of date compared to how they are now training the end-to-end model. And then, of course, having something is better than having nothing. What Wall Street Journal didn't show you is the people who are alive today because this technology was there for them. And this is golden. Blaming autopilot for every crash where it was on, it's like saying that, oh, I had a seatbelt on, so therefore it's the fault of a seatbelt. It didn't save someone's life, although it was supposed to. And here's the thing about autopilot, it never checks its phone, or if it does check your phone for you, it can effectively multitask. It definitely never gets drunk and never gets distracted. So it is embarrassing for Wall Street Journal to attack technology that is actually saving lives. And sure, raising awareness is important about the limitations of these technologies, but don't attack these technologies. Don't make them look evil. And by the way, Pure Vision Tesla FSD outperforms any other system, including systems with radar and LiDAR. Check the NCAP tests in Europe and other places. The best system is the Pure Vision system. Is Lucid Dream Drive better because it has LiDAR? No, it lacks basic features autopilot has. I'm excluding cars like Waymo because you cannot buy them as a consumer, and it's geo-fenced. Here's Euro NCAP. This is a Tesla Model Y. Safety assist, 98%. Here's a vehicle from Lucid. Safety assist, 84% only. Here's a Mercedes EV. Safety assist, 80% only. And Volvo, the brand that's famous for safety, 89%, so better than Mercedes, but not even close to Tesla, specifically when it comes to safety assist. And that's it for this video. I just recorded a new video on Patreon. Everyone's talking about this Tesla issue. Is it really a big deal? I dive into it a bit deeper. I think it's a pretty good video. So if you are a Patreon member, make sure to check it out. By joining Patreon, you will have access to all of my exclusive videos on Patreon, as well as how much I am willing to pay for each Tesla share between 2024 and 2033. If you join the investor tier, you will also have access to my valuation model, where you will see all of my assumptions, including deliveries, the energy business, Tesla's future businesses like FSD, and of course much more. And then if you want to easily download that and put in your own numbers, then this third tier is for you. To all of my Patreon supporters, thank you so much. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't yet as well. It's really important to like the videos because that makes it less likely that the channel will be shadow banned later, like my other big channel got shadow banned before from about 50% of my regular viewers. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.